This here is a $55 proprietary Toyota relay, and this here is a $2 eBay relay. You guessed it, it's one day before the long weekend. Toyota wouldn't sell me their proprietary relay, so I need headlights and I'm gonna make my own. So this all started the other day at the snow. I lost all my headlights. I was tracing around trying to work out which wire it was, but it was just too snowy, too wet. We just hot wired the high beams and drove home. Now today I've taken a look at the wiring for the whole headlight. You know, it's best whenever you do have a 12-volt issue, start at the battery. Start where it's coming out of the battery and follow the wiring all the way to the device that's not working. That's the quickest method I found to solving, you know, what the actual issue is. So that's what I started with. Now, headlights are pretty straightforward for how they work. They need a current, they need to be switched, and then they have a high beam function as well. You also have parkers, other things like that. They're a super straightforward, simple system. So the fact that I couldn't get it working on the side of the road really shocked me, and I thought, hang on, maybe there's something more to this. On this 80 series, you got the wires starting at the battery. They go through a fusible link, which basically is meant to burn out in case of a short somewhere, so it prevents fires. Through the fusible link and into this main fuse box. And now this fuse box hosts a couple of things, but the main one I'm looking at is the headlights. Now, there's two fuses there, which immediately I checked, and they weren't blown. So then I went and had a look at the relay. Now, all this relay is doing is when you switch your headlights on, it joins two wires essentially. So that's what we're going to be trying to replicate today with our Chinese relay. We're going to try and work a way to wire it in and make it neat, just to get me through until Toyota can get me a spare part, because right now they don't have any in stock, it baffles me sometimes how many of these cars are on the road, yet I can't walk into a shop and get one. I get really jealous every time with Liam and Dan, because they can just go down, 15 minutes down the road to patrol a part, and there's literally everything on the shelf, and it's half the price. And yeah, being a Toyota, that's just one of the things I have to, deal with. Toyota parts, which are very expensive, and no one else seems to sell genuine parts around here, in Melbourne anyway. If you've got any suggestions though, for people that do sell parts, let me know. I know All 4 Spare are good up in Queensland, but yeah, anyone in Melbourne, let me know. So I thought this may be the culprit, so I pulled it out, I wired it up here, got some alligator clips, and just tested. What you want to do with a relay is obviously make sure, firstly, it clicks. And once you know it clicks, you want to jump on with the multimeter on continuity mode and check that a current is actually passing through the 2 points, which here, we get no continuity even with the gate open. So we know that obviously this relay is not working. And a good way to confirm this is with a hot wire. So hot wiring stuff is good to fault check things. You can just get double confirmed that, hang on, this relay is the issue, or this piece of wire, or whatever connector is the issue. So simply create yourself a hot wire, which I just used a piece of wire. It is going to get a little warm because this isn't like the thickest thing in the world, but all you want to do is basically emulate what the relay would do if it's working. So in this case, it's linking those two wires together. So we'll hot wire the wires here. We want to join those two top ones. And as you can see, we got headlights. And now that the headlights come on, we know that issue is the relay. So now, this would be usually a pretty easy fix. You'd call it up Toyota, put on an order, get them shipped over from Japan or whatever. But right now, it's the Friday, the long weekend's about to begin. I don't have headlights or high beams, and I want to use my car, obviously. So I couldn't get a hold of one today. They still have to get them shipped in, which still baffles me how they can't have a simple part like this in stock, but whatever, it's Toyota. So what we're gonna do is make my own. I'm going to use this Chinese relay and basically wire up my own just so I can get lights working. Alright, so I've just created my little wiring loom here that's going to go into the harness on the main fuse box. So yeah, these 4 connections should hopefully slot in. And if I wire it up correctly, the lights should all work. So let's find out. Alright guys, so now that Fulcrum have released their FRR remote res shocks, they're giving away a set to one of you guys. And all you gotta do is go to the link in our video description, register, and get the chance to win some remote res shocks for your 4-wheel drive. Alright, that's all connected. Let's turn the lights on. Hope for no fires. We should be all good. Do the headlights work? I think they do. So there you go, folks. The headlights are now working again thanks to our Chinese relay. Now, is that relay going to be as good as the Toyota relay? Hell no. It's made in China. The other one was made in Japan. It's an actual Denso, proper Toyota relay, probably rated for way more cycles. This thing, look, honestly, it could get you 5-10 years. Oh no, honestly, it really could. But the Toyota relay is designed to work for 30 years. If you want to actually have it on nicely inside of that fuse box, you have to go ahead and buy yourself the Toyota one, just so it all fits, because it's all, you know, you can't get a standard relay with that sort of port layout. So I will be unfortunately having to spend the money and go down to Toyota and buy one. Or will I? Well, at this point, the modified relay had been working absolutely fine, but I did want a more permanent solution, and with the OEM Toyota relay still being a few days out from shipping, Liam encouraged me to have a look inside and see if I could fix the relay myself. Anyway, Liam thought, why don't we just have a look inside the relay and see what's actually broken, because in a day, a relay is just, you know, an electromagnet working to close the circuit. So
it just makes 2 points of contact.
Yeah, how complex can it be? So,
well, pretty much, for those of you who don't know how electromagnetic works, but essentially your power passes through all this coiled copper wire and it creates a, you know, magnetic field, and that forces, or it turns this bit of, you know, metal at the top. It gives it a magnetic charge, essentially. And when that works, it's all basic. So when that's charged, it brings this other magnet attracted to it. And there's a tiny little, 2 little contact points that it brings together when it's magnetically charged. And all that had happened was, when it was closing, it wasn't, like, the contact points must have worn out, like, over time, or over 30 years.
The amount of clicks.
So I just bent where, like, the little bit of the plate where the contact point is, and now it contacts.
So we hooked up a 9-volt battery to the relay, and now you can see it's closing, making contact and allowing power to flow to our headlights. And just like that, we saved ourselves 50 bucks. But I suppose that is what's great about these old cars and why they're gone so up in value, is because you can repair these with very simple parts at a very affordable cost. Whereas with new cars, you need to, you know, there's computers to deal with. You have to be really careful not to damage any of them because they're very expensive electronics. But with this headlight system, there's a couple relays that are just joining wires together that make the whole system work. And being able to, you know, go in and just repair things like that, learn how the electrical system works, even for a novice like me who really doesn't know a lot about electronics and stuff, can work it out. So that's one reason I do love the Toyota. For as much as, you know, Toyota spare parts might be hard to get parts off and be very expensive, you know, where it counts, this car has it, and I'll love it for that. Alright, so now that we're back from Fraser Island, I thought it was probably a pretty good idea to just go over the car, just check up on things. It is due for a service now that we had done 5,000 Ks. So while you're watching this video, Liam and I are most likely already on our next big trip, so it was vital for me to check over everything and get the car up to spec. And in relation to that fuel tank issue we had, which makes me think the switch up between the 2 tanks is a bit, hey, going, and it's actually pulling fuel from both tanks. With the GXL model, there's not like a pump between the 2 tanks. You can either run each tank independently, so if one tank was to get a hole in it, you can still run off the second tank. So it's got a little valve in it, which basically switches the outflow of the 2 to either go off one or the other. And I think what's happened is that valve is kind of, you know, not working 100%. It's kind of get a bit old over time, and it's letting through a slight amount of fuel from the sub tank. And if the sub tank is empty, well, it's going to suck in air, isn't it? And I think that was what my issue was. So I might pull out that module and just have a play around with it and see if we can clean it up or see what condition it's in. But yeah, probably require me to drop the main tank, which is kind of full of fuel at the moment. So I might have to burn some fuel first and then I'll drop the tank. But what we can do now is drop the oil, change it, new filter on, and we should be good to go. And now for the oil, and I'm using Penrite 20W60. I was using Castrol RTX diesel, RX diesel, but when I switched to this is the thicker stuff. It's a lot thicker than the 1540 I was using. But on this old car, where the engine, it's at 400,000 Ks, it's not a brand new engine anymore. It's got a bit of wear, so using the thicker stuff, it just runs so much better. The oil pressure stays nice and high and where it should be. Obviously right now we're coming into the colder months, so probably could have got away with 1540 during the winter, but summer, this stuff hands down is the best. And I do hope to be doing some more stuff up north this winter, hopefully. So using this stuff should be good for that. But yeah, Penrite, no affiliation with Penrite. They're just good oil. I know that's what Dan swears by Penrite, and yeah, so it's been great. It's expensive, so it's not cheap. It's like $108 for 10 liters, which like the Castrol stuff, I can get a drum of that for 100 for RX diesel. So it's like nearly twice the price, but if you got an older 4B, definitely worth it. Like it just runs freaking mint using this. So yeah, go throw some of this in. I will say just while I'm under here, swivel hubs, probably done about 10,000 K since I rebuilt them. They're still mint. Like I'm so impressed, like so stoked that I rebuilt both of them and I haven't had them leak at all. Like that just shows like literally someone, a novice of mechanics like me, can even rebuild wheel bearings, swivel hubs, do all that and get no leaks. Like I just checked the wheel bearings too. They are tight as all hell. Like I'm just very happy. I'm very impressed myself of how well some of the stuff actually held up. Even with like this car, right? The driving it does is pretty much entirely off-road. It doesn't really go, like, it's not a daily car, I'm not driving it anywhere to work or anything. Like, it's purely there to go on trips, take it places, go off-road. So all the case it does is either highway stuff or, you know, decently stuff like hard surfaces or tracks or whatever. So it's not just a mole crawler. And yeah, I'm happy, and I'm just so stoked that like I filmed that video and like hopefully inspired a bunch of people to do it themselves instead of like, you know, having to spend all the money at the mechanics and stuff. Like it was fun process, and like it was just, I don't know, it's just like it's very much surprised me what I've been able to do to this car. And I'm not sure, it's probably because it's like an easy car to work on and everything, but yeah, it's just like it shows if I can do this, all you guys can do it as well. And it's just like that confidence to say I'll give it a crack. And if things don't go right, you know, just you got to have people around you that can help, or you know, work it out. Like that issue with the bloody center diff lock, that center diff lock problem, I reckon that's probably the biggest issue I've had on this car the entire time I've owned it. That was a real headache. Expensive too, but we got there in the end, and it's all about, you know, just sticking through it. And sometimes you might want to give up and just say, screw it, I'll take it to mechanical. I don't know, but you just power through, and you'll get there. And it's very rewarding, I think, to actually, you know, work on your own car and know it inside and out. And yeah, and then I tell you what, it's going to be hard to sell this car if I ever get to that point. Like, I just never want to part from it, because it's like, I don't know, it's your baby. It's like all the time and effort you put into it. It's not just, you don't just drive it A to B. Like, I spend all the time with this car, you know, doing all the mods on it. I've probably even spent more time modding the car than I have driving the car. Like it's, you know, working on it and driving the car. So yeah, it's, yeah, I don't know. Something about cars, they're cool. May 22nd, yep. I only changed the thing like a little over 3 weeks ago. But you gotta look after your old cars, especially when they are like 30, yeah. Some people driving around cars from this era are almost like at the historic point where they're like driving around as vintage cars. Like, and we used to go around the bush, you know, put these cars through bloody hell and back. And I think they're still 30 years old. Yeah, they were built bloody tough. They're just, I don't know, just a different, the 90s and that like late 80s were just like, yeah, for terms of like making cars, like by that point, they knew how to make a good car. And yeah, they made these things like, yeah, indestructible. So, and once again, putting the Ryco filters back on, pretty standard. I mean, you can go Ryco or you can go super cheap, I guess, but I don't know. I just always just chose Ryco for like the extra, what, you know, $5–10 it is. Always never had an issue with these. A bit of oil, pre-lubricate that seal, and then I'll put it on and I'll write the date on it. And you don't need to crank this on. I just do it sort of a little bit under hand tight and seem to have no issues there. You just don't want it loose, obviously. And there you go, she ain't going nowhere. Because what that seal will do, because you kind of pre-lubricated it, it'll really tighten up and like sort of suction itself on. So you don't need to, like, don't be putting a wrench or anything on to try and tighten it down any further. That's plenty as it is. So it was time to fill it with oil, and then I was ready to do another 5,000 Ks all over again. So thanks for watching, guys. This is just a short little video, but yeah, with 12 electronics, just, you know, look for a good wiring diagram on the internet and just give it a stab, because you'll be amazed at what you can repair by yourself. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.